Hello there. Hello. Happy October 20th to you. My name is Jenna Matlin, and this is my channel. Will you give me a reading? And today I wanted to talk about house clearings. At this time of year, there's all kinds of weird things going on. People have weird energies happening in their home, and I thought I'd give you some ideas about what to do about it when it happens. Well, first, like what it is, and then what to do about it when it happens. Um, Specifically in Philadelphia, before I moved, before the pandemic, I would have people ask me to come do house clearings for a variety of different reasons, and I developed a process that's been really kind of my go-to process. It's been really helpful for me, and I wanted to share that with you today. So I'm glad that you're here, those of you that are live, and we're going to get into it. So I think the first thing is really deciding like what's going on. Oh, you're welcome. Hey guys, nice to see you though. Who are here live with me. Like what's going on? Because there's a lot of different things that could be happening. Sometimes it can just be negative, stagnant energy. Maybe someone had a physical illness in the home, or someone is going through a divorce, or there's depression and there's an aftermath of energy. And I feel like, all of us have had the experience of walking into a room, maybe after s- a couple has had an argument, and even if they're not there, there's something that feels off. Or you feel that someone has come into your room while you were gone during the day. That we all are very sensitive actually to the energies about us. So when I'm talking about house clearing, I'm really kind of talking about different things that could be occurring. One of those is just, again, because we all throw off energy, it could be just something negative that has happened or difficult that has happened in the home that requires clearing. Sometimes there could be some bad energy that has been placed on the home from someone or something else. Sometimes we are dealing with shells, and that's very common actually. A lot of hauntings are often what are called shells. They're not actual spiritual conscious manifestations. They are, how do I put it? When we cross over, it's almost like there's all of these, it's like a Russian doll of energy that kind of open up as we are starting to raise our vibration. And like shells, they fall away and they typically should dissipate. Sometimes they don't. And if they don't, it can often resemble a haunting, but it's really just this like shell that's on this loop that is kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And that's how we kind of can tell it's a shell. Like it's always the same thing. It's always the one cabinet open um every other Tuesday, or this one thing getting moved. It's always like this one thing, like a just like an old program that didn't dissipate, and there's no consciousness behind it. Then you may have actual spiritual energies there, from people that still are in the area or in the home, whether they're stuck or not, and need you to tell them to go to the light. That's up to that's up to debate. And then sometimes we can have malignant entities, and I think that those are by far the least common. Um, so today is more of like a general approach to house clearing. It's not really about, oh, what do you do if you have ghosts, right? Like I feel like that's a conversation that we can really target for another day. But I think I can help with just giving you kind of like a way to think about this that could be helpful for you. So, regardless of well, actually, so what do I do when I'm trying to figure out what's going on with a house? Um, Usually, I'm listening for, if once I've come into the room or come into the home, I'm waiting for impressions. I'm waiting for any kind of manifestations in physical, like noises, things moving around. I'm listening to what my intuition is telling me. And then I'll do a reading. I've done house clearings with big old homes, and I may be sitting in an attic and doing a tarot reading, going, "What's going on here? Who's here? What's the story?" Um, and often by then I can kind of get a sense of what the deal is. I think most people tend to assign a more serious kind of intent than is typically there, because that's what we do as humans. And oftentimes, very simple approaches can have a huge impact. So the words I typically use, and I wrote it all down because I didn't have time for a little PowerPoint today. Is I really look at it as clean, clear, bless, protect, celebrate. And I'll say that again: clean, clear, bless, protect, and celebrate. And that's kind of the path I use regardless of what is actually happening in the home. So when I want to talk about clean, um, we're talking about physical decluttering. I've also studied feng shui a lot. So really paying attention to what's going on with the chi. So decluttering our homes, allowing the energy to flow easily is really important, especially if someone has been sick in the home, where there's been depression or a divorce, something really nasty has happened to the people, that we really want to clear the chi. And so we want to organize everything, declutter everything, do a really good top to bottom clean. I think doing that physically, if we can, is really important part of the process. And then, if it's your own home, you can prepare yourself for the work by cleaning and clearing your energy as well. One of the ways I do that is a salt scrub in the shower, with really some meditations and invitations to bring clear light to me and really just clear anything that might be part of my negative energy. And then if it's in my home, usually wear something very simple. I don't have any makeup on. I walk around barefoot, really wanting to come as I am, come as you are, as we are cleaning ourselves and cleaning the energy. Um, and I don't really wanna give you guys, like, actual sayings that I use, because I feel like there are so many out there on a Google search, or so many that you may already know from your religion or your spiritual tradition, that I think it's less about the words and more about that we are using words in a place of power, and we're doing it from a place of intention. So that has to be part of the clean part of all of this. Um, I then do so after something like that, I tend to then clear. So before I'm protecting anything, I kind of feel like if we put, and this is where I've seen some other people do it differently. I don't want to protect without clearing everything first and really kind of getting to baseline. Because if you're energetically, like, encasing the place and protections, there could be something still inside. So I like to clear it all very, first, and then work on the blessing and then the protection. That seems to very work very well for me. And so what do I mean by clearing? Now, can what I mean by clearing is a really the removal of the energies once we've handled the physical space. And I look at that from a kind of feng shui perspective first. So once we've cleaned the home, I'm looking, are there any dark corners that feel like there's just not getting a lot of movement? Are there areas that feel like sunlight never comes to that area? So when we're dealing with these corners and these kinds of rooms, I'm wanting to keep the chi from going stagnant. So I might put in mirrors to help move the energy, or even like a little plug-in water fountain, depending. Anything that's like moving is something that we can do. You can even put for babies though, but you can do adult ones. I don't what they call, like, the mobiles. Anything that's like movement is really, really good to keep the chi flowing, and that would be something to look at. And I even includes, like, looking into closets that don't get accessed very often. What would it look like to really organize those closets that aren't accessed very often? And what's your plan to come in and occasionally move the chi even in there? Because even though it's a closet, it can affect the whole place. Um, so that's one thing I do kind of first, and then I start moving into more energetic clearing. And so there's a variety of different techniques. And the kind of clearing I do really depends on what's going on in the home. So if we're just kind of clearing energy in a general um, point of view, there's one technique I use. If it is some kind of energy being sent to us or to the house. And this can be knowingly malignant, but it can also be accidental. Like some people have the ability to send you darts. They have the ability to send bad luck to people and they don't even know they're doing it. They're just jealous. You could have a jealous neighbor who loves your house and is like giving you the eye, right? That can impact you. Or something more specific. And then of course, if we actually have um like a haunting or something of that nature, then that changes it. So this is why we're trying to figure out what's going on because it shifts the way we're going to approach the issue. Now, for a general clearing, you can smudge um, with a variety of different ingredients. Sage, though people are trying to be careful about that. You can use Palo Santo. You can use an incense blend that is made for this purpose. And or if you can't have any fire, I often will use Florida water. Or if can't do any of that, I have a besom, I have a or besom, I have like a broom. And then I always try with intention to go from outward and then moving inward in a spiral. So the outermost rooms towards the innermost rooms and top to bottom, right? So we're really almost as if you're sweeping a floor on 3 dimensions. It's like we're sweeping and pushing things to go to the dustpan, if that makes sense. And when I'm doing that, I typically will move things in a way where the final piece of that is often like a back door or like a kitchen window that is towards the back and have just that one open just that one window or just that final door and really creating this sweeping motion of like sending it out of the home. And while I'm doing that, I also have another invocation or intention that I'm verbally saying or I'm singing. I do a lot of singing when I do this too. You can also actually use like tuning forks for this, like a high vibrational tuning fork or a chime. Anything that's really just shifting the energy and really doing it with intention. But for me, my broom is one of my favorite implements, and I'm really visualizing. So, as we're doing this, we want to visualize very clearly what it is that we are intending and interacting with. So, I'm visualizing just pulling the bad energy and starting to get it out that final door, like you would, sweeping the floor with a broom. Now, I want to talk a little bit about so when we're talking about clearing, right? I want to kind of talk about, we've talked about like the passive energy and what to do with that. And then we also have like the active energy, right? Which is something being sent. And with the passive energy, like the clearing on its own will work. But with active energy, there's like a couple of things that you can add into the clearing. And one of them is reversing the energy that's being sent. So even though you want to protect, what are we What are we doing to with the energy that's currently happening right now? We can do a reversal of the energy back to the person from which it comes. And you can also do something like dispelling the energy. And I feel that, let me kind of go into, there's just so much you can do for each of these. So when we're talking about reversing the energy, um, and I'm going to kind of go into this a little bit. Like, there are things traditionally that people do both inside the house and outside the house, like an upright horseshoe nailed over the front door. I've got one over my front door. And one of the traditional meanings of the upright horseshoe of the door is that it's like catching that energy before it enters the door, enters the home. Um, and it can reverse it. You can also use a bagua mirror, the eight-sided mirror that you can see. That's like a feng shui mirror. That should never be placed inside the home. It should only be placed outside the home, like right outside the front door, as an example, or above the front door. So it's kind of one of those, like, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever, bounces off of me, it sticks back onto you, right? It's kind of one of those situations. And I think this is why we see so much traditional protections around the front door. You have the mezuzah, from the Judaical, what's the word I'm looking for? Tradition. You also have the hand of Fatima that's often used in all of the Semitic peoples of that world. You can use cowrie shells blessed by an elder if that is part of your tradition. You can also use a nazar. These are throughout the Mediterranean and the Turkic peoples. Matter of fact, I have one. I should have showed you guys. I should have brought it in, but it's like one of those glass blue eyes, and it's just outside my front door and facing outward. So anything that's coming my way is going to go right back. It's like, nope, that doesn't belong here, and it's not going to root here. So that's one of the things you can do about reversing it. Now, there's also like just dispelling it. And that's more of like a passive approach to this kind of energy. So I feel like things like wind chimes can work. Um, you can also do a cutting cords ritual. You can ground the energy into the earth, which I'll talk about a little bit later. You can literally throw an axe in the ground. And that's like a really old witchy thing that people have done, is like literally throwing an axe until it's in the ground. And people do that for weather witching too, which is like cutting the storm in half. So there's a lot of different ways depending on, again, your spiritual background. And I think they all can work. And I think it has to do with our own focus and our visualization and the intention that we're bringing into the work. So once we've cleared it, either with like just the general clear, or we are kind of sending back, or we are dispelling the energy, or some, maybe all three versions if you feel called or that you need to do that, that's really when I start to create like the bless portion, right? So now we've done clean, we've done clear, and now bless. Like, now that it's cleared, before we sealed in all that juicy goodness, right? I want to bring in my people that protect me from the other side. So that's when I'm really wanting to call in my guides and my guardians to come and bless the energy of the space and to help me keep it where it's at. So one of the things I do is really, like, actually a lot of singing I do when as I'm carrying white light. You could say the Lord's Prayer. Gosh, I have a bunch written down depending on like kind of your background. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I mean, there's so much you can do. Where is it? I don't think I have it here. I thought I did. Anyways, I don't have it in my notes, but anything that is considered a blessing from your background, or background that is important to you as you go around the home or the space, um, in a way that feels that we are inviting in something greater than ourselves to make this place safe for you and positive is important. And I'll often do that going back around with usually like a white candle. Um, there's a lot of different ways, or if you have a wand, you can do that, or like a selenite wand is pretty good for that kind of thing. And so I do a blessing. Um, if you are traditionally Catholic, or you can go get yourself some of that, uh, the holy water. You can even have a priest maybe come and bless the space, whatever works for you. But I think at that point is where I feel like it's powerful in the kind of components that I'm talking about. Finally, we get to the protection part of all of this. So we've cleaned it, we've cleared it, we've blessed it. Now we're sealing all of that in and with protections so that hopefully we are um, keeping bad energy out by the work that we've done, though it's something you have to keep up with regularly or when you start to feel the energy off. I tend to look at it like every fall and spring. So with protection, we have oh my gosh, again, there's so many, like so many, so many, so many. So I kind of talked about what one of the things I do is I have like blessed salt, and as I'm just asking for protection of the energy, I will then line salt up at every possible entrance that I know of to the home. So under every window, every like external facing door, even like a chimney or something of that nature, anything that feels like it can bring energy in, I will often leave a line of blessed salt, and I will leave that salt there for a while until maybe whenever I vacuum at some point, but not immediately. So that's one of the things I do. Sometimes if it feels like it was a really hard energy to clear, I will get those 7-day, candles that most people can find at a grocery store, bless it, and then leave the candle burning at the major exits outside of the home. And that could mean like a lot of candles. And I don't leave it for 7 days, but I try to leave it through the night well protected from it being knocked over and harmed. And sometimes I'll even create like another circle of salt and then put the candle within that. And the candle just is white. You can also dress the candle with a bunch of different protection oils, of which you can buy on Etsy, online, any witchy retailer near you. So that's some of my favorite ones. um, I don't typically use water for protection. I wanna use, really like earth and fire as my main, elemental tools for the protection piece. You can also use crystals, so you can buy crystals or, I would say something like smoky quartz or obsidian or, any or onyx, like any of those that are really good at repelling negative energy or absorbing it before it comes in. If you just had a little piece, it doesn't have to be a big piece, but like at every door or near every door and at the window sill of all the windows, would really, really work as well. If you're into sigil work, if that's something you do, that would be a good time to bring that into this whole process, is creating sigils of protection that are at these like places. So you want to start kind of like inside the house, and then you can bring the protections outside of the house too. Again, with the Turkish evil eye protector, the Nazar, with oh gosh, there's another one that's really good, which is like there's a hoodoo jar of nails and broken glass that will trap bad energy, and you're supposed to bury that near your front door. So that's another thing you can do. There's tons of stuff, and have fun with it. Try different things and see what works for you. Um, but really, the main entrances and exits of the home are really, really important. What else do I want to say about that? So I think um in terms of like the protections, once you've done that, I then would probably do another tarot card reading personally, or pendulums work, whatever, however you do this, to be like, are we good? Did this all work? Is there anything more that needs to be done? Or do I need to do something over again? Like, how is the energy now? Typically, it should be much better. And then the final part of this whole thing, which is to celebrate. And if we've cleared out energy, especially energy that's come from, again, divorce, depression, like all of the heavy stuff that happens to us, we want to replace it with something that's positive. I feel like I don't like just clearing and then just leaving it neutral, leaving it kind of like, okay, but it's kind of a vacuum. I really want to create good times and like this sense of joy or brevity. And I feel like that has another protective effect. So once you've done all the work, invite some people over to have a good time and to celebrate, just to like replace that energy that we've cleared with something really beneficial and good. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. When it comes to like the um the shells that I was talking about, sometimes clearing and blessing is all it may need to dissipate the energy. But when we're talking about an active, like haunting situation, oh my gosh, this is a thing for it, it needs its own thing. And it's not like my number one go-to. I think that in modern parlance, it's like, just tell them to go to the light. They know where the light is. I don't think they need us to tell them to go to the light. But we can figure out, is there something or someone you're waiting for or something you need that will complete what's going on here? And I may look for that in a reading. Or even, can we cohabitate? Like, is there something that you need that will make you less scary and more friendly and helpful? I've done that too. I think that it really is on a case by case basis, depending on who and what you find. So that's it, my friends. That is the kind of nitty gritty of house clearings. For any of you guys that are live, do you have any questions? Is there anything that's been going on with you in your space or anything that you've suspected? I'm totally open to questions. And while people are possibly typing, I just want to say there's no like magic, like this is the one way or this is the one answer. All societies that have any kind of religious or magical component has their own approach to these kinds of things. And so I believe that with intention, um, and really having a good sense of focus and visualization and really staying on top of it, we get to something that can be remarkably effective. So when people come to my house, if you came to my house, everyone always says, it feels really good in here. Like, or my office, this feels really nice. And that's because I work on it. I work on the chi. I really am, I really like very, very sensitive to what energy is doing and how it's doing it. And so most people don't know that. They think maybe because I have good decorations or something, or they're like my house plants, that it's good energy. But I'm also doing this stuff to keep it up. Um, so we have some questions. Christina, I've been having electrical issues, lights, TVs turning on and off. Oh, and hi. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So like that could be like, I would wonder if you've done a reading on it while there and have asked what's going on, because that could be a shell. It may not be like an active haunting. There's a bunch of things that could be happening with that. It could be someone that's crossed over trying to reach out to you. It could be, someone with some psychic ability who's doing that and not realizing that they're doing that. It could be a shell, it could be any of those things, and I wonder if you've done a reading on it, just to look and go, "What is actually going on here? What is this?" That's probably the first thing I would do. Susan, if I'm in an apartment, how can I protect? I can't hang any chimes or mirrors. Yeah, so if you're in an apartment where, all you have is like an external door, um, and just a hallway, boy, there's a couple of things, and it depends. Like, one of them is, can you have like a welcome mat outside your door? Is that possible? Because then you can place things like protective runes, protective sigils that you've drawn or had someone do for you with intention, and place it under the welcome mat. Like, that might be something to do. Another thing you can do is, if you have like one of those doors that has, the peephole, you can also like have a sigil that you kind of tape over the peephole when you're not using it, because that is in effect like a mini exit within the door, and you can do it from this side. Um, if you can do nothing at all, I would say as close to that front door as possible. Any of the interventions that can fit and make sense for the space that you have. So yeah, if you can't, I would don't put a bagua mirror like inside the home. That it'll be disruptive within the home. But things like a mezuzah, if you're Jewish, like at the doorway entrance, you can also do some version of, one of the things I do actually is I keep a broom, like a little hand broom, in the corner, where like next to my front door on the inside. So that is a really old, I think it has African American history to it, around like keeping the dirt swept out. Like, you can do something like that as well. Going through the questions. Is there something you can do for the garden space? Typically, I don't bother with outdoor spaces too much because nature has a way of taking care of it. So I would be curious as to what's going on in the garden for you, that you're thinking about looking at the garden, as an area to protect. It's usually within structures that I focus my work. Um, let's see. When I can only clear my space and there's someone living upstairs from me? Sorry, I must have missed a question. So I feel like, right, like we live with people, we live in the world. I think just do the best you can. So if you've got someone that's living upstairs, if it's a shared domicile, it depends on like how open they are to this, right? Like, they may be on board as well, but if not, you just have to do the best you can with what you are in charge of. Um, and you may want to do some protection specifically on the stairwell between you and the next person. I mean, every home, right? Every apartment has its own layout. So, of course, we have to work with what we have. I did a big clearing when I moved into an apartment in Philadelphia. And it was really weird. The apartment was, it was like it was an apartment that was an open, like, square. It was only three sides like this, and in the middle was a stairwell for the whole It was like an old Victorian that had been cut up. So it was very weird and wonky. So I just had to do the best I could. Now, I had a front door that went to that stairwell, but I never ever used it. I used like one of the other exits that I had to the outdoor stairwell. So I just tried my best to, kind of pour some salt and keep that energy out from the stairwell, of which there was definitely something going on in the stairwell. It was kind of weird. And I was like, nope, don't come in here though. I don't want you in here. Um, My camera's picking up white shadowy dots moving in the nighttime. What is that? I don't know. Did you do a reading on it? I can't tell you. It can mean a lot of things. It can mean that that there's something going on with your camera. It can mean that you have some orbs, and orbs can mean a lot of different things. They can mean spiritual activity, but it also can be psychic activity. I would say it's hard to tell for any of that phenomena unless we're really sitting down and getting a reading on it because it can mean a couple of different things. Um, I don't suspect anything. I just need to clean, clear, and an open space. Perfect. Trina, hey, Trina. Trying to figure out how to best clear one of the duplexes I have. Hmm. Yeah, problems keep coming up. Okay, so when you like have a space, and I think we can see this with people where it just seems like one thing after another thing after another thing, that can possibly be some like evil eye action or like some neighbor who's angry at you or whatever, and then they're sending like this kind of bad luck energy your way. I think the method I'm telling you often will work with that. You can't, if you're trying to sell it or if it's up to sale, you can't have anything permanent. But I think like if you can do candles for a little bit and seal it in, and maybe try to hide something protective, could be very helpful. Like for that, I would definitely use a Nazar. I would definitely use a Turkish evil eye charm. And maybe it doesn't have to be big. It can be small and you can hide it. It's not about the physical of it. It's about what it is in doing for us energetically because of the intentions that we're placing in it. Um, so Jolie says, not even concerned with actual haunting. Ah, okay, wonderful. But haven't done anything in recent years since dealing with cancer treatment. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like if you yourself have had a major illness that you've kind of moved through, clearing your energy is really, really important. We don't want any weird, latent, negative energy to kind of come back and cause problems. So again, you can even do like a very quick version of this kind of clearing if there's been like a big family argument or a big fight that happened or somebody broke a glass in anger. That's a great time. You can do it the next day. Just get this out. This is a one-off. We don't want anything here to stay. And we also very, very negative places can attract negative things. Often it needs a lot of negativity, like domestic violence, child abuse, um, drug addiction, people that are staying in very, very low vibrational realities, um, by default don't have. I think all of us naturally have protections as just part of it. Like you have your immunizations of your body, and I also believe that you have spiritual immunizations. Like that we all are born as living creatures, a natural protection. But when we are in these really low vibrational places, the protections are, they're like Swiss cheese. They're holy, and that can attract things that want to take advantage of that. And that can come from illness as well. So I always think it's really important if something like that has occurred, or even if you've had someone stay as a guest who recently have gone through something like that. Once they go, you want to clear the energy, not because they mean to do anything at all, but they're very vulnerable and they can attract things that will not be helpful, even if you that's not you. Does that make sense? Like if they're a guest in your home, they've stayed overnight, and there was like this big thing. And I think this can extend to like global stuff too. So like refugees, anything like that, where their vibration is fractured, it leaves them vulnerable, and it can leave your space vulnerable as a result. Um, hmm. I'm sorry, I'm just reading through. Granddaughter's mom is anxious to be able to claim property for her and her daughter. some kind of evil eye kind of thing. Yeah, I think I always turn to tarot when I'm like, there's something weird going on energetically. What is happening here? What is the deal? And then I can usually find out, depending on what comes up in the reading. This is giving me an idea. Maybe I should, hmm, yes, another time. I should do a reading on how to use tarot to like figure this kind of stuff out. Would you guys like to see that? Maybe not today, but if I have time to pull it together, I can do that for you guys. So yeah, I think it's not even about like you were saying, Kristen, that you just bought an old home and watching to see if I offer anything that you might not have learned or known. I think it's just about being really, really consistent with what it is, and also thinking about tackling this in a way that's a layered approach. Um, if you're trying to lay a bunch of like crocheted Afghans on the bed and there's holes, you know, but you're layering it so they kind of cover each other. So I always think about that. Like it's multiple many things at different levels and different places within the home. It's not just one thing. Like one thing isn't going to do it all, but multiple things kind of act as like a net that catches more and protects more with flexibility. Does that make sense? That's how I tend to see it. Ooh, fun. Well, you're welcome. Yeah, especially around this time, really good. Also, spring, and I really think I wonder if this is where that idea of spring cleaning comes from. But I don't think this has to be like this huge, wondrous operation. It's going to take you 30 days. It can just be like a day that you've like, maybe, or even a weekend, or one day you've cleared and decluttered everything. Um, and really just like, especially those of us that live in the West, we tend to very easily amass a lot of stuff that we're not actually using. From a feng shui energetic perspective, that's problematic because there are these items that are not being imbued with life chi, that's not being imbued by being used, and it's just sitting kind of like collecting and pulling energy down. So if you're a collector of items, I think it's something that you want to keep up more. Or if you collect things on a certain curio, you have your curio shelf. I would say like at those cross seasons, go through, dust it off, and rearrange it, like reorder it. So it's not just sitting in the same way. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like we've got to move it. And also when it comes from keeping the chi moving, pets are really good for that. Pets in the home because they're bringing life into areas. Plenty of plants. Like I said, those little water fountain, like those desk water fountains, can be remarkably helpful. And maybe I'll do another YouTube on this. Like, I use tarot cards as cures for chi. I have a whole thing on it. I should do this another time, but I will place certain tarot cards tacked up like behind curtains and like under rugs to act as like this like energy work. Now, we don't want everything to be all fountains, all mirrors, all lights, because too much of that active energy can cause their own kinds of problems like insomnia, inability to focus, too many fights, like that. We were really looking for a balance. And so I think we can really just sense it. Like, does this feel balanced in here? And if not, what can I do to tweak it so that the energy can move? Um, oh yeah, you did take that class. And my mother's house was recently sold and emptied, and too many things came home with me. Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. That's such a good point. Like thinking about what are you bringing into your home and your space. Um, I admit, like, I'm a fan of Facebook Marketplace. Too much of a fan. And if you're bringing things in from an inheritance, if you're bringing something in from the thrift store, if you or or the antiques, fair, really maybe do some work to clear it. or smudge it in some way before you bring it into the home because we don't really know what it's encountered, especially if it's already been in someone's home. Because you don't want to bring something that is acting at like I want to say a heat sink or like a gravity well, and pulling negative energy in. So we also want to be mindful about what we're bringing into the home for sure. Yeah, tarot for cures for chi is so it's wonderful. I do that and it makes a huge difference. Like I said, people are always like, your home feels so good. Why is that? And like, oh, well, it's my little secret of energy work. And I think intention. So we don't have to like go and buy all the saints. We don't have to buy a ton of like Buddha statues, right? It's less about that. Like this kind of stuff, this kind of stuff that we're talking about comes from millennia of humans that needed to be able to use everyday objects in spiritual ways and use things that they could afford. And so I think intentionality of practice is the most important thing, no matter what you choose or how you choose. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money at all. Yeah, I've definitely done how I've been hired by real estate agents to clear houses that didn't sell. Like, there's just something about the energy and, and people were walking through and no one was placing bids and they were beside themselves as the agents. So I've done that as well. And this is something I've been doing not that long after I started tarot. Quick story, when I went to Kansas with my aunt, I was just out of high school and it was in the middle of nowhere. And it was an old farmhouse. And we go in and I start unpacking. I have the door open to the hallway. My aunt is quite tall. She's like maybe 5'9", 5'8", 5'9", and she had this white floral dress on. I gave her, and I'm unpacking, and I see a woman in a white dress out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, "Hey, Lori," and there's no one there. I was like, "Oh, great. I think there's someone here." And it's a weird thing sometimes with them that if they notice someone can notice them or is noticing them, then they get louder. Have any of you had that experience? So I went to her. She's also really, really intuitive. And I was like, "Is your place haunted?" She's like, "Yeah, but none of the men have noticed." Okay. So that's when I was like, I'm going to see if I can use tarot to see what's going on. And I did. Um, and I can't say that I was able to successfully remove this person, but I think we were able to get to an understanding where I didn't feel watched when I was taking a shower all the time. Um, so that was kind of the start of it many, 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 many years ago. And I want to take a more careful approach with really understanding when I can sense that this is a beyond my pay grade and I am not going to be able to do anything and I probably shouldn't and I need to call and see about getting some more help. Um, yeah, the houses did sell for sure. Mhm. So I've done that. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of like a recent story. But because since the pandemic, I haven't like been in a ton of places. But oh yes, I can tell you a recent story. So in terms of my mediumship, I'm not one of those mediums that are like, oh, I get things all the time. Like I really shut it down. Like I need off. And so when it happens, it's always kind of shocking and it's rare. And but I can tell you, like recently I had something like that on someone's land. So I live in North Carolina and there's some neighbors I know, they bought like 30 acres. It's beautiful. They have like, a swimming pond and all that. And I'm hanging out with them on their front porch. And all of a sudden I see a tall black man walk between the trees. And it's always so shocking whenever that happens, because I'm not looking for it and it doesn't happen like super often for me. But I figure the energy felt very just protective and kind. Um, And so why would I do anything with that? Though I will tell you an interesting story about a shell experience I had. So I was visiting my mother who had a home she was renting, and there was the kitchen and then some steps down that led to the back door, and then further down led to the basement. And it was really, really cold. And my husband was with me, and we were in the kitchen. And I was like, "Can you close the inner door? Because it's freaking cold." And my mom's like, um, "Yeah, there's something here that doesn't like that door shut." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Whatever, I'm shutting it." And then I go back to cooking dinner, for me and my husband, and all of a sudden, I had a face yell at me. I mean, if he was here, he could tell because I jumped, and it was just this face this close to me yelling at me, "Open the fucking door." It was so crazy and, like, scary. But it was a shell because it only ever did that. It only ever did that, and there was some story, like, to it. And I was like, "You're not the boss of me. I'm shutting the door." And I shut it again, I shut it, I kept it shut, and, I just felt this grinding anger, you know? And my husband's like, "Oh, no, look what you've done." I was like, "Whatever, I don't care, I'm cold." So we sat down and ate in the living room, came back out, and I had shut the door, it clicked, and the door was open again. Like, it was really stubborn. My mom no longer lives in that house. But yeah, so, like, I've had that experience, when I took oh my god, guys, when we went to Ireland, for the retreat a couple years ago, we stayed in a castle, um, and there were old parts to the castle and newer additions, but it was in the oldest parts where there was a party going on, and, my husband came with me, and we were staying in one of the rooms, and it was attached to, like, a very, large, um, bathroom, and it was the same kind of thing, like, we'd been there for 5 days already, and we're sleeping, we're right at the edge of sleep, and I hear the bathroom door go, and I was like, "Did you hear that?" And he's like, "Yes," so these kinds of things, were going on, but what scared me, which made me jump just because I wasn't expecting it, was right outside the castle, and again, there was a man right here, and that's the weird thing about them is I don't necessarily see them coming. It's just like nothing and then boom, this close to me, and I jumped again, but it felt more protective or curious. So I don't feel like we need to eradicate everything. It really depends on what's going on and how important is it and is it actually dangerous and is it affecting our lives? Um So Kathy says, "When we moved in, my non-sensitive husband would say, 'Do you feel we're alone?'" Yeah, we just laughed. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, it's not something I go looking for, and most of the time, I don't. So when it does happen, I always I always, um I always trust my gut. If I find I don't wanna go in that bathroom. I don't wanna walk down the hall in the dark. I don't wanna do that. Then that's something telling me there's something going on, right? Because I typically have no problems with that. But why is it now I do, and why is the hair standing up on the back of my neck? I'm not just imagining things when 95% of the time, I never have that reaction, right? Michelle, what do you do when you see shadows in a hallway, sometimes white and sometimes dark? I think it depends on what that could possibly be. I would probably do a reading on it and see what's going on, and also look at what other pieces of evidence are happening to help piece together what's going on. Because if it's just shadows, I don't know, it could just be energy in the house, could be a shell, I don't know. If it scares you, I would do a reading and see what's going on. Because I think the feeling of fear is also important. I think that we can encounter these kinds of phenomena and not feel fear and feel more like curiosity and so if we do feel fear, to me it's like, is there something that I need to be fearful about that I don't know and I want to be curious about it? So that's about it for today, my friends. The visitor in a home was a live person who recently went into a home. Oh, Kathy, that's such a good point, actually. Yeah, sometimes you get astral travelers who are human still. That does happen. I've had that happen rarely, but it happens a lot if before people are about to cross over. I've definitely encountered that where it's bef- like if they are very, very ill or in coma or very old, they tend to start traveling a bit before the main travel, and that can happen. Or people are astral projecting just to get out of a body that doesn't work or a body that's been harmed. Kids do it all the time too. Actually, kids do it all the time. So sometimes it's funny because people are, there's like this little girl, she's like a ghost, and I'm like, are you sure it's not just the neighbor's little girl who's just astral projecting? Like it could also be that, you know? So that's what I mean. Like we want to do a reading to ascertain what is going on because it could be many, many things, some harmful, but mostly neutral to not harmful. But even that could be annoying, you know? So we are at time, and I just want to give you guys once again, just kind of the big ticket what I do. So I clean, I clear, and that clearing can also include reversing or dispelling. I bless, ask for blessings. I protect all that work, protect all, let all that juices stay in there. And then I celebrate to replace that energy with something very positive and uplifting. And how you decide to do this, as long as you're doing it with full your full just willingness and faith and intention, you're gonna probably affect more than you may realize. So that's it, friends. Thanks for coming and talking with me about that. Oh, you know what? I will be back soon on YouTube Live. Let me see. Let me look at my calendar. I've got a lot going on that you guys might want to be like, come and hang out and have fun with me. Let me see. I got to look at my calendar here. So that was today. Um, I don't have the link yet, but if you follow the Cartomancer magazine on YouTube, I'm going to be on their live next Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to share one of my mediumship tarot spreads. So I hope you can come to that. And then on actual Halloween, I will be back here. I already have it up if you want to look and like toggle a reminder for yourself. From 3 to 4 here on YouTube, I'm going to do my death spiral. And this is what I've been doing it's every year I do this. So it is a guided meditation and a tarot practice for you to journey to the moment of your death in your lifetime. And we're going to meet death. And trust me, it's really lovely. Don't be scared. It's going to be good. I promise. So come back for that. And then on All Souls Day, November 1st, I'm doing a spread. I'm going to walk you through a spread because, that's really about like our ancestors. But how are you going to be a good ancestor? And so it's a spread that looks at your impact across 7 generations from now and what those generations, your descendants, will say or how their lives are because of you and the choices that you've made in this lifetime. So, yeah, lots of fun stuff coming up. I hope you guys come hang. And it was really good to see all these names I know. Oh my God, it's so good to see you. And all the new names, welcome. Nice to meet you. And have a wonderful weekend. Take care, my friends. Bye.